All right. Good morning. It's May 22nd, Thursday, here on the Dev Talk Show. And I'm Chris Gomez here with Rich Ross. How's it going this morning, Rich?
Doing well, Chris. How are you?
Good. Good.
Nice.
We are good. Yesterday, we had some fun talking a lot about testing and the beginning of integration tests that we added to the project and using the .NET Aspire unit test project type.
Which was interesting.
Yeah, and it was a type I was actually not really familiar with, a test type. Yesterday, we picked the NUnit version, but there are 3 versions when you install .NET Aspire, add the templates. There's an MS test and an XUnit. If your question is why NUnit, I don't. There's not a good reason. We just picked one.
Yeah, I did not see XUnit.
Yeah, so when after the show, I found it both in the Visual Studio Project templates on my machine and in the .NET new list.
Oh, all right.
So again,
that's fair. Whatever filtering I was doing did not give that to me. So that's awesome to hear that all 3 are in there.
Yeah. Now, I remember in the past when we were dealing with updating .NET Aspire that I personally had some strange behavior I just couldn't figure out, where I would update it and then it still was showing 9.1. And in the end, I think the way I came about to resolve it was just that the expectation of having that enable orchestration lit up, I thought maybe was a bad expectation in certain cases, but I don't know for sure. I mean, for example, we know that Aspire has gone to 9.3 since we started this, right? And so we're definitely on the hook to update it at some point soon-ish.
And that's fine, because I think when we started this, we were 9.1, so we've done a 9.2.
Right.
So it's not, I don't think it'll be a huge lift.
Yeah. In fact, it shouldn't be. It's just it's interesting keeping up with that one, because that is part of the agreement right now, is that you for support, you keep up with the latest .NET Aspire. So all right, so yesterday we
what did we do yesterday? Yesterday was so long ago. I think we wanted to. We know we want to make some changes to some of the structure, and we thought, hey, let's put some testing in place so that we can be comfortable and confident making those changes, that we're not breaking anything. And that's kind of where we started. So we did some basic stuff, right?
Right. Like right now, the unit tests are just checking for status codes, but certainly, well, I keep saying unit tests. And the reason why it's easy to say that is because we're using this unit test project. And I think that it's been driven into my skull about unit testing, right? And definitely what a .NET Aspire test project seems to be doing to me, in my opinion, is integration testing. In fact, I think it even says that in the description. So, but in any case, first up, yesterday, if you watched the show yesterday, we're trying to launch a more consistent view of our GitHub repository, where we have basically some tags that we think will help people watching later after the fact. So this happens to be using GitKraken, just to be clear. And before the show, so GitKraken, this particular commit right here, which is 7B-OB83, for those who like commit hashes like me, I may be the only one. The current main branch is tagged pre-show 250521, and then where we ended up at the end of the day is tagged 250521. But that was on a separate branch that was just called testing. And I think what we wanted to do was go ahead and merge it into main so that we can continue moving forward. But those tags will always stay in place, so anybody watching the show in the future can jump in. Yeah. So, I think for us, if we want to switch over to look through that, because there's a feature that you use that I want to talk about because it's a little new to me, and it's having GitHub Copilot review the PR.
Yeah. So let's see. I think that my screen is shared. There you go. All right. So that's just our project screen. I got to rearrange a little bit here because, yeah, that should be better. Okay. So this is our project. If we look here, we've got a couple of pull requests that are in our queue. One related to the README that we started doing at the beginning. And then I was hoping to use that for something. All right. Let's just focus on the one for the project task. So if I go in and I click on this capability, we've got our basically everything we did yesterday. It's basically checked it in and did the usual. We've seen this before. When you do a pull request, you can actually ask Copilot to, hey, write the summary, describe what's here, not just, hey, we wrote some tests, right? So it has some information around, naming and routing improvements. We did that change so that it was more uniform to how we were calling the APIs. And then the test project edition, all those things here. So great description of what was there. But what you might notice is up here is that we actually created, or because you can assign view it. In this case, I assigned Copilot to review it. And in doing that, let's see. So I requested a review, and it goes through a couple other settings I was doing inside of there. But basically, this is the results of its review. So high level. Hey, what did we do here? And reviewed 5 out of the 5 changed files. You can actually have a summary per file as far as what it is that it reviewed. So each of the files here, and then what changed description wise. But I think the important part is this part down here, in that it gave some suggestions, right? And it actually, when it gave the suggestions, it says, hey, we realize it, we're kind of nitpicking about this one, but it makes your code more readable and more consistent, I guess is right. the way to say it, right? So in this case, it's basically trying to say, hey, you've got, whoops, that's not what we want. Sorry, there we go. Basically saying, hey, you've got meetings here, but you've got meetings here, and the casing is off. So that might be something to suggest to go ahead and fix. And that was really, out of everything we did yesterday on the show, that was really the main comment that it wanted to kind of get in place. So what we can do here is that we actually have, I haven't tried this, but it looks like we can basically, sounds good. Well, but basically, go ahead.
Is that going to be the commit though? Instead I don't feel like you're replying to the conversation. No.
So this here, all we're doing is I believe we are committing the changes that Copilot has suggested.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the commit is going to be called update orbital test API resource integration test.
For
in like the next in the tree in the graph.
Yeah, that's true. So it would be, so this would be I would think that this would be the commit message, right?
Yeah. Because I'm wondering if you wanted to say like consistent. Yeah.
Right. Something like that.
Right. And then I don't even know if you need the sounds good, right? Because I understand the reply in the conversation. That makes sense.
Yeah, but not, and that's really here,
right,
as opposed to here.
Right.
So
I mean, we could always change that later, but which would be like a whole show on Git, but that's okay.
Yes, exactly.
I think these are the kinds of things that happen with the developer using the website. Is the change will get made, and then it'll be like, oh, while technically you can
realize
go
that
back
was
and change the commit message, you can.
right.
This has already been committed, and another developer could already fetch it. And a lot of developers have auto fetch on.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
like most
I do not.
developers have it on. I turned it off, but I'm
Yeah,
weird.
same.
So
I want to control that a little bit, especially when I'm, working in other tools that aren't my own. Right.
Right. All right. So anyways, we're going to commit.
Let's see. So I think what this will do is changes and move them into our PR. And then now, so we could probably see that by going to, this is our, we've got two. Yeah. So now we have two commits. The one that we did originally yesterday, after the show, and then this one here for fixing the casing. Now, that tag, well, the tag is fine. The tag's not gonna get impacted by what we're doing here. He said, hopefully.
Oh no, the tag's not going to move. The post show tag is where the post show tag is.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go merge the pull request. Cool.
Hey, when you merge it, can you go back to the choices?
Do you want me to cancel
this? Yeah, and then the choices to merge. So we're merging fast forward. So here is where people have different opinions about this. When we if we say create a merge commit, it's going to create a commit specifically for the merge. Some people like that. Squash and merge, I can understand, is a little more controversial. It would essentially rebase the two commits into one. This is the kind of thing that some teams will do. And again, I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is more controversial. So if you're at work and you're saying like, oh, squash and merge sounds good, I would say talk to your team. But I'm going to tell you where I think teams will use it, because you might be out there saying like, why would anybody use squash and merge? There is a philosophy that some teams and some GitOps kind of thinking has, is that every commit should be deployable. Every commit should be releasable. And along the way, oftentimes we commit along the way to what we want to do, which can also be very readable from a human standpoint of like, okay, first I did this, then I did this, then I did this. And that's what either create a merge commit or rebase and merge would do, is it will preserve the two commits. It's just it'll preserve them differently. Rebase and merge will give us a straight line flow of development, because we would be rebasing testing on top, which would be a no op because it's already a straight line if you look at the graph.
Okay.
But the default that GitHub gives you is create a merge commit, which means it will go ahead and make an extra commit off to the side and then merge it back in. And some people like that because they like it being called out.
Okay. And
other people, and when I say other people, I'm one of those people, is I tend to not like it because I see it as a extraneous commit that didn't change any code or do anything. Right. Now, I'm not married or devoted enough to the concept that I would be on a team that chose one of these methods that I would argue. I would go with the team's choice. It's not that big a deal.
Okay.
But you would probably find in my own personal repos that I tend to have a very straight line trunk or main or whatever you want to call your default branch. So that's just a little. So whichever one you want to pick, now that I've explained them. But I think people don't think about it. I think people hit the merge pull request button and you just go for it, right? And it turns out these do three very different things. And I would urge everyone to open up a private repo on your own, have some fun. Public, who cares? And play with these and find out what you're comfortable with and think about how you'd use them in a team.
Yeah, that's a good point. So from that, if it's your project and you were running it, you would typically go with squash and merge, from what I'm hearing.
I think in this case, I'm okay with rebase and merge because it leaves the commits more open. And I'm trying you'll see that I'm trying to have the commits be very atomic, so to speak. They do one thing. That can be hard to do, but I personally am trying to, and again, the repository is not perfect, but I'm trying to make the repository read like a book. Like, this commit added a form, this commit created the HTTP type client, this commit. And now sometimes it's very easy to like do part of a thing and then the other thing, and then you commit, and this little part of the thing is sitting around in there. I do not fuss about it at work as much. I just don't. But a lot of times I create repos for other people to consume as learning devices. I do that a lot for Philly.net. We're doing it here.
Yeah. And
so I tend to be very like, okay, this commit does one thing and I want to describe what it is so somebody can just read through the history like a book. Like, okay, well, now you got rid of the static web app, which I thought I got rid of. The static web app auto, the workflow that's been running and failing on us every time. Yes. And then here I got rid of the camel case. I set up the JSON serialization, and here I changed some using statements. You'll see that in the history after you merge.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to turn this into an aside, but here we are. So.
No, I think it's important to, if we're gonna open the cover and see what's in there, we should talk a little bit about those. So we'll go with the rebase and merge.
Yeah.
And then hit that. Okay, confirm, sure. You're all set. Tested branch can be safely deleted.
Yeah, that's another thing people sometimes ask me about. Should I delete branches? And as with all things Git, I definitely have thoughts about it. I generally, me personally, I would at this point. I think the branches served its purpose. It was a feature that was being worked on. I think some people, especially if you have experience with other older source control systems, which I know it's scary to think this, Rich, but there is an entire generation of developers now that have never used anything but Git and probably don't think that anything ever existed before that. Bless their hearts.
Right. Place.
I was young once too. But I have lived with Visual Source Safe, which I probably need a blessing for. And I have lived with Subversion and CVS, in fact. Yeah. And so you can get to thinking that a branch is a physical thing. And what you begin to realize about Git is it's not. It's the sticky note we talked about on yesterday's show. It's just a pointer. Deleting the pointer does not change your tree. Nothing goes away. None of the commits are deleted. And I have a law that I created. It's because I just figured I needed a law. So Gomez's law is that the longer a branch is alive, the harder it is for the team to feel they can delete it safely.
Even though there's nothing wrong with deleting it at any point in time because it's already there.
Sure, but you get gun shy about it. The longer it lives, you go, I don't know. That might be important. I don't know. I don't know. Should we? I don't know. So that's where, to follow that law, I would hit delete.
Okay.
And we can show you the effects of that too after you do it. I can show all those effects on using GitKraken. I like GitKraken just because I like the graph. I will tell you that many other vendors are building some great graphs now. A few years ago, you know how I picked GitKraken because I was like, it's the best graph. It's the best graph. But I think a lot of people are building some good tools now. So,
and there's an extension of VS Code that does that really well. I can't remember what it is, but
even GitGraph is pretty good. The extension of VS Code, it's pretty good. You can hide branches. You can do a lot of cool stuff. So you've committed it, right?
I did commit it.
Okay.
So I can get rid of now. The only hesitation I have around getting rid of the testing branch, and part of this is because we're still going to do some testing, and maybe I shouldn't have PR'd it this quickly, but I think I was kind of running through the mechanisms to make sure that everything we put in place would be there for those who wanted to saw the video and wanted to go ahead and do it, right? And
we're learning too. I'm willing to say, hey, we're showing a feature here that we've tried for the first time and learning from it. But let me show you real quick. Like, don't do anything yet. Let me show you real quick. So here we are. And I feel like, can't I zoom in a little bit more? I thought that I'd be able to zoom in a little more. Is it because I'm already zoomed in? Oh yeah, I guess I'm zoomed in as far as it'll go. So,
oh, wow.
So you see a bunch of stuff here, right? And what I like about Git Kraken is that I basically have hidden all of my local branches except main. And Origin has a whole lot going on. And I'm talking about here on the left-hand side where I am showing all this. Yeah, so here's where, and is it Alt to do the arrow? Nope. Is it Shift to do the arrow?
It is Shift and Control.
Shift Control. See, look at that. All right, so I always forget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide some things. So we see the testing branch from the remote branch is here with fixed casing of the API calls, what it's pointing to. My local branch has not caught up yet because I didn't fetch, I didn't pull.
Right.
Okay. Now I can do this here within the interface, but I'm going to be even more, crazy about this and come out to command line. Command line is telling me that I'm one behind. That's what Oh My Posh is telling me there. I'm going to hit clear so we can see this from the top. And I think if I hit get status, it's going to tell me your branch is behind Origin testing by one commit and can be fast forwarded. And that's because but actually, let me fetch that. I'm going to go ahead and fetch all to make sure I get tags. So it turns out, let's go take a look at what we've got now. Main has been updated. The remote main is updated. We still have testing sitting here.
Right.
Which I think is odd. I think it's odd that it... Oh, I see. Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's not odd at all. It rebased on top.
Yeah.
Just fine. Like, whatever. I personally, just committing this would have still been a fast forward. It still would have been a fast forward. So, sure. Whatever, GitHub. It's fine. So watch what happens when I remove the testing, when I just take them out of my picture. So that I'm not looking at them anymore. Well, I can't do that with a current branch that I'm on. So let me... Because
that's what you're on.
Yeah, let me check out main and then make testing go away. Oh, and then I got to make the tags go away.
Oh.
It's a straight line, right?
Yeah. Okay,
so it's a straight line. So what I can do now is, since I am on main, I can say git pull, and I, as out of habit, tend to do git pull fast forward only, like every time. And what this does is this protects me from other commits have taken place since the last time I pulled.
Yeah.
So fast forward. Fast forwarding is the act of picking up the sticky note and moving it. That's it.
Right. And you're doing it. You can do fast forward because the commits that you're going to be bringing down don't have conflicts with anything that you already have working on your machine.
Yeah, and they also didn't branch off in a different direction, and I don't have other commits that are in the way, right? I don't have any of that. So what I find interesting is why, I'm not sure why that is still there. That doesn't make sense to me, because I fast forwarded. So like it says, you're up to, I don't know. I think that's weird. So now let me go ahead and come back to testing, bring testing back. Okay, so here's testing. The interesting thing is, if you delete this branch, I guess this does go away. Oh, actually, I haven't even fast forwarded this. I don't think this is correct either. Yeah, this is behind too. So let me pull that. Okay, now I'm up to date. I wonder why this is ghosted, though. I wonder. That's weird to me. I'll admit there's something I'm not understanding about why this is sitting in this ghosted state. Okay. So when you delete this branch, yes, because of the way GitHub, this surprises me a little bit, because of the way GitHub rebased instead of just pushing without creating the merge commit. What we have here is these two commits will actually go away, but they are identical in their nature. They just were rebased, so they're technically different. This one is 737B. This one is 65. What's
they're different commits.
They are technically different commits, but it's weird. I don't know that they're different in their nature at all. Program CS, CS proj. It's the same 5 files.
Yeah. I
It
mean, to
could
your
just
point, there's
be,
nothing code-wise that changed.
it could be just how GitHub did this. You'd probably find, me personally, I would have rebased locally, so it would be this straight line.
Okay.
So here's
So
the
go back to
result of the question is, when you delete this branch, these two are going away.
Yeah, and you got a straight line.
Right. Some
So
people are
going back
vain
to
about
what
the
we
straight
did.
lines. So I'm kind of one of those people, but
No, I think I think the straight line is a good,
it's,
especially on your main trunk, or your
yeah.
your primary trunk. That
We'll
makes
have
sense.
conversation about that. I promise you.
Oh yeah.
People will not.
So when I did the PR and I merged
Yeah.
it, what would you have changed differently? Because I thought the rebase was what we wanted.
So what I was unaware of, I've switched back
And
to your screen, by the way, so you're not surprised.
Okay. No, that's it.
What I was unaware of is, it seems to me that rebase and merge in GitHub, I mean, it makes sense to me, is it rebases, so they are technically two new commits, but because GitHub did it, it creates two new commits that my machine is like, well, I already have these other two commits. I know this sounds like I'm really splitting hairs, because I am. Whereas me working personally, I would have already typed git rebase main. Testing those two commits would have been moved already, and those are the commits I would have shipped up the chain to the origin. So you, as Rich, you'd have never seen the detour. Now,
I would have never seen your testing branch.
No, you would have, but it would have been a straight line. And here's the thing. It still is a straight line, right? Git Kraken is just trying to render as best it can, and it does a great job, and so do a lot of these tools nowadays. It's just trying to render how the graph is going, and it's like, well, you'll notice that the way it drew it is it drew one going straight. I guess I should just show it instead of talking about it, right? Is the way Git Kraken drew it, is it one is going quote unquote straight and the other is going to the quote unquote right.
Yeah.
But if I bring up a whiteboard, I just want to show that it is perfectly valid for Git Kraken or any tool or anyone or me. Why are you making me sign in right now? It was just really fighting me to sign in. So here's Git, and you can see the whiteboard. Okay, great. A blank canvas is great. So here are the commits. Oh, no, I want to draw. So here's a commit. Here's a commit. And here's where main was. It would be just as valid for me to draw it this way. And then say, this is testing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after GitHub did its rebase, where it said, well, I'm going to rebase these onto main, which it didn't have to do because it is a straight single trunk. GitHub rebased, and it did, and I could have drawn it this way, and that's valid.
Okay.
Because the commits are still pointing backwards, so it would look like a horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
But Git Kraken chose to go zoop, zoop, but it's the same.
Right.
It's the same. That all sounds very nitpicky on my part, and maybe a diversion that isn't super necessary, but
sure,
here we are.
Okay. Oops. I think that helps because you have, I think it's like you said, right? There are choices that happen there, and you should run through and just kind of see for yourself what those choices end up resulting in. Are you happy with that result?
Yep. So anyways, and here's the thing is, I think as a team, so to kind of end it, as a team, there's some value in all of your team members adopting a similar approach, but understanding Git and GitHub enough that if you stray from that approach, it doesn't paralyze the team. You just go like, oh, it did something different. No big deal. Because instead, what really happens on teams is, because I hear this every day, my pull request has 100 merge conflicts, so I'm going to be busy today working that out. And I try to think about how can we improve our workflows so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The main culprit of that happening, two main culprits. Major change to a file that doesn't merge well. Now, what does that mean? Programming files like C# files, they merge pretty well generally.
Okay.
The Visual Studio Solution file does not merge very well.
Yeah.
The CS proj can be dicey because in XML it's equally as valid for your project references to be in any order. True. That can be weird. It usually isn't something that paralyzes you, but it can be a conflict. If you've ever worked in the SQL Server integrations services, which I do not know if they've changed their project format yet, but that XML format, absolute nightmare. You can make a change and it could rewrite the whole XML file, and it is perfectly valid and identical. And your source control tool is going to be like, there are 5,000 changes in this file. So as a team member, I tend to rebase often. I take the branch I'm working on, I rebase it on the main almost every day or even multiple times a day if it's a fast-moving system. And what that does is it highlights conflicts quickly. Yeah. So I can say, oh, look, somebody changed something in the same place I'm working. I need to either take theirs, take mine, or adjust somehow. But that doesn't account for the massive overalls that can happen in a project where somebody's like, they take, you know how it is, they take a weekend and they do a massive overhaul and they commit it, and everybody is hosed because not that the person did anything wrong, but it's changed so much that your code is in conflict all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
interesting. Okay.
Anyways, GitHub Copilot reviewed our PR. Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Those are problems, but in a team of two, we're less likely to run into some of those situations here, especially with only one of us really coding while we're on stream here.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. For this to be helpful for people, I think we both want to try and bring up real world problems.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not. Yeah. And I think it's a great conversation to have. Absolutely. But you may not see that with what we're doing was the only point of that. Okay. So we're going to keep the testing branch going because we're still doing some testing. I guess the question is, as we look at, I did this. There we go. So there is, you can basically create I think it's switch theme. I didn't hit that right. This one here, preferences color theme.
Okay.
You have two in your, I think both your personal settings and your workspace settings.
Workspace,
You have the ability to basically define a dark theme and a light theme.
Okay.
And what I was always running into was someone would say, hey, this theme's pretty cool. And I go check it out. And I'd always forget how to get back to the theme that I liked that I was already using. So this gives you that ability to do that. So I have a dark theme chosen, which is Cobalt. And then I have a light theme chosen, which is just the visuals. I think it's the GitHub light theme. And this quick thing that I basically put here. I got too fancy. So it basically just a quick connect so that I could do Control Shift Alt T to swap back and forth between the two.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Cool.
Yes. So fun stuff. Cool.
So our tests.
Yeah.
We eventually went down to one test to test status codes.
Yep. And I'm just doing some cleanup because I ran through something and it gave me a whole bunch of files that I wasn't expecting. So.
Okay. Look at that. We've learned git clean -F-D, remove all untracked files. The -F is for force, right?
Yep. Then we get status should be empty. Yep. We're basically what we checked in from yesterday, essentially. So
we'll have to have an episode where we create git aliases.
Oh, yeah.
I admit that
awesome.
I do not do that. And the reason I don't do it, this is not a good reason, is that if I start relying on Git aliases and then I sit down at your machine, I'm hosed.
Yeah.
Or if somebody asks me, how do you do that? Oh, it's an alias. Now that I can look it up, it's not the end of the world. But I do need to start using aliases because I can't memorize all this stuff all the time.
Yeah. I would love to have that kind of thing that you want to take with you that's part of your persona or your profile get somehow moved into the profiles that we have in either Visual Studio or in, I know it's hard because it's the implementation on the desktop, but
it's really Git.
We do have Git integrations to that.
Yeah.
So maybe a suggestion for someday. Okay. So we're back to where we were. We've got, I'm going to get rid of and clean this up. So the reason I kind of moved out to here because I wanted to start a conversation with GitHub, with Git Copilot, unless you have another idea of where we want to go. But it's basically asking and saying, look, we've got this. We need to come up with, I think we want to come up with something that is a better test than just, hey, does the endpoint return okay or fail, right?
Right.
If you have a direction around that, cool, we can go ahead and do it. If not, then the thought was, can we ask Copilot to help us write better tests around this?
Is that the prompt? Is you just want to ask it to write better tests? Or like, because what I'm thinking is, what is the end result of listing or even just getting a meeting or listing a meeting, and what do we want to test there?
What is the end result of getting those or listing those, and how do we test that?
Yeah, like what is the test? What is the next test that we think we need? Is it that we want to make sure, like, would there be an integration test that says I tried to get a list and I got back a list of meetings versus, I don't know, getting back something unexpected? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's possible. I'm trying to think of what the value is. Not that, part of what we're trying to do is we want to be able to get to a place where we have a suite of tests so that we can start working on repositories for the data store, and that the API doesn't change and it still passes the tests.
Right. And that's, in trying to test this out, that was kind of the path I was heading down, was, hey, can we, and maybe we don't need this one, maybe we need this one as part of the context, and say, something along the lines of, we've got this API project or this API class that we're working with, and we want to refactor this so it is using, I don't necessarily want to suggest the repository pattern, but maybe we do.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I guess there's no reason to mince words about it. Is that we will very like if you scroll down to the way the endpoint works today, which I think is a little further down. We've talked about this on a previous show, so trying not to rehash too much. Everything's happening here. It's all happening here.
Yeah.
And we,
in our program,
I think we both want some kind of service that you reach out to say, hey, can you go get the meetings for me? And now, as an API, I no longer care how it works. Just give me the meetings. Or tell me you can't. Give me the meetings or tell me that you can't. Right? And so there's a reason. That's my end goal. Okay. I don't know what Copilot's going to tell you, because I can see the steps in my head to get there. And one of them is repository pattern. And then after that, something that I want to bring to the show is not using exceptions. And I'm going to have fun with that. I think that's going to be a fun bit. But I'm curious.
So I'm thinking, so here's kind of what I'm thinking, right? Let me see if I can do, it's probably easier if I say it. So give me a second. Hang on, I think it's in the wrong one. Oh, can I do this here? No, it's going to go, because I'm not full screen. It's trying to use my host machine and not my dev box. All right. Then we're just going to type it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It was, yeah,
Oh,
okay. It wasn't
is it really
pulling.
listening?
You clicked them, yeah. Oh, look at that.
Stop. I don't need you to do that. I'll help you understand if your API is listening. No, that's not. All right, let's try this. So anytime you do that and you kind of get yourself in a state where you stop it or run some kind of thing you don't really want to do, get rid of that from the history, right? Because you don't want to, that's going to continue to be part of the conversation. You don't want it to be. So we're starting fresh. We've got our agent mode and we're using Claude here for this because for me, I've been playing around with that a lot when I use agents. So let's try this. I have my Orbital API project. I want to do a plan for basically putting a more durable pattern in there, like the repository. All right, it's not.
It cut you off.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure.
Yeah, let me stay with you first. No, it'll be there for a while. All right, let's just type it. Looking at our Orbital API, it's .api here. Project. I want to test prior to right. So all we want to do is we want to have a conversation around the plan, right? Don't touch any of the files. Don't go through it, edit anything yet. Just help me understand the thought process of walking through, taking what we have here, which is very, a lot of code integrated into there, and planning for creating some tests so that we can be comfortable as we start to move to a repository pattern. We know that we can run those tests to make sure that things still work.
Okay. So I kind of saw up at the top, I kind of feel like I think it was heading what we figured, is they said for unit tests, you can mock the Cosmos DB client. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. Focus on request response handling, parameter validation, and error scenarios, and which that I agree with, is that testing the API is less about, it's more about, okay, so you called something, you got an answer back, what do you do next? Test API points with actual HTTP calls and use a Cosmos DB emulator or a test container for data persistence, which is kind of what we're doing now.
Right, for the integration test bit. Yep.
Right. It's recognizes we already have a test project. Okay.
Even though we didn't say it, and it has our one thing that exists.
Interesting that it's like, hey, you need X unit. And it's like, well,
all right,
sure,
maybe not.
I figured it would go to mock. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yes, the integration testing, that will get us things like Web Application Factory, which might be what that's about.
Yeah.
The emulator, sure.
And then specific tests to implement, right? So there are the unit test.
Yep. Yep.
All of those look good. And much like we did yesterday, we could maybe have that test case scenario to test out those. I mean, maybe not.
We'll see. I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be more. This is less generic, but we'll see. Okay. I could be wrong.
Okay. End-to-end tests for each endpoint. So getting to the integration point test, which is a little different, end-to-end tests for each endpoint, tests with valid endpoints, invalid inputs, and then performance tests. Optional but not recommended. I would probably say let's hold off on the performance test because there are different tools and suites that we can use aside from doing them here in the code.
Yeah. I would love to get to a place, just as a aside, that on every commit you run performance tests so that the team could theoretically know we've done something now to the project that slowed it down.
Yep. Yeah. I totally agree, because you don't want to find that out when you know.
I think that's not how it happens. What happens is somebody says, prod got slow. That's how it really happens.
That's how it happens.
Wouldn't it be nice to commit by commit be getting a report? That would be fantastic.
Yeah. And I think there's some things we can do to kind of show that as we go through those. Okay. So it's suggesting essentially a sample implementation with the meetings API test. So get meetings, return all meetings. I think that was actually what you used. Even though I didn't type it, I think that's what you said. Using mocks and testing those out. Mock the query iterator, act, call the endpoint, and then verify the result.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's for the people who love mocks. I think in some respects that's testing. That's very specifically testing integration to Cosmos DB, which is okay. I sort of have a different vision that the API is more ignorant of that even.
I think so.
That it just calls a repository and gets an answer. And then the answer is either here's a list or there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then the API can make a decision what to do with that problem. I think generally it would log it and so on. But
right.
So
not and maybe we put a pin in it and talk about it later, but how does the repository know the difference if it's not connected to the source? Or that would probably depend on what we inject into the repository for the DB context, right?
Right. Like whatever the way I envision it in the future is that you might have a mock repository, not mock up the containers, mock up the Cosmo client, but I can see why.
I see what you're saying.
That. Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to go down this path then? It's sounding like we don't. Maybe we don't do this because it's giving.
So
it's the unit. Oh, sorry.
It's trying to create a unit test there, and right now we're still at the integration test stage because we're kind of tightly integrated.
Yes,
I think.
And maybe, well, I mean, the other thing is I don't disagree, and that's why I kind of scrolled down to here. But if we take a step back and say, if we define the unit test, it will fail.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's okay because we know we want to fix that.
Yeah, that's true. The other thing about the code it's produced here is it chose X unit, so we'd have to use any instead, which is not a big deal.
Yeah, but
it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is great, but we are. So we'll let that think about that. Okay.
So I guess kind of what we're getting at is if we look at our current unit tests, here's the other thing about the structure of what it's suggesting. Because we used the .NET Aspire test project, .NET Aspire exposed a way for us to call the API with an HTTP client differently from using the Web Application Factory, which is still a nice thing and actually something that I think might be interesting to do side by side, not because you would really do that in a project, but just so that way we have both sets of samples.
Okay.
But you can see what I'm talking about is that they are instantiating, GitHub Copilot's instantiating a web application factory and then eventually making an HTTP client call. But the arrange code from line 16 all the way down till 32, basically all of the arrange. The arrange section is using features of .NET Aspire, including the distributed application testing builder. That comes out of Aspire. And then it looks like what it does is it creates an Orbital app host just as if it was going to run Aspire's orchestration. They add logging in, which I'm not 100% sure what they're doing there, but I think I'm not 100% sure why the add logging. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't know. Okay. Then they create an HTTP client for you, essentially, and say, okay, now you can act with that HTTP client, knock yourself out on line 32. And really for us, the meat of it was line 34. Like all of this was set up as far as we were concerned until we got to line 34 and 37. Yeah. So it would be interesting if we could refactor that out later, but I'm not worried about doing that right now.
So what you're saying is refactor everything up to here, all of this arrange stuff, and then just basically get something that gets us to here quicker.
Maybe, so that each unit, if the unit tests are doing the same thing time and time again, then maybe we say, okay, that could be refactored out, and the unit tests are just showing the simple, I set up a little bit of state, I'm acting, I'm asserting. If you look over at what it suggested, I think there's a point where it's showing how it's going to use the web application factory. I don't remember if it was higher up or maybe it's going to do it lower, or see here, it's just, that's the mock container. There, right there.
Okay.
So when they switched over to NUnit, they're using the text fixture feature, which is text fixture is kind of like that. You see, they're using features like one-time setup and stuff where they're basically saying for this entire class, you have to do this one time. But then text fixture is like, you gotta kind of do this all the time and stuff like that. So the key is that everything we're seeing on the left is kind of being handled by all the setup on the right, but it's a different testing implementation. Instead of .NET Aspire's testing builder, it is now the web application factory, which was added. If you hover over that, I don't know if it's going to show us IntelliSense. I thought that would be cool if it did. I think that's the stuff that you find in the ASP.NET Core MVC testing namespace.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Which is one of the things they mentioned, including in here.
Right.
Now, so if we look here, just trying to see if we have that in here already, or if that's
well, and we don't, because we're not using it. Instead, we're using the aspire.hosting.testing, which was brand new to me yesterday. I never even knew it existed until we tried it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that will generate some interesting debate. I just do. I think some people will like it, and some people will feel that I can predict. Some people will feel, well, doesn't this shackle you to Aspire? Okay. But I don't have a comment on it right now. I'm just saying.
Interesting. Maybe I haven't had enough coffee yet, but well, it's a curious statement, right? Because you're
right.
You bought into Aspire.
You already bought into Aspire. Yeah. I know. I'm not trying to belittle it, because there might be very good things, right? There might be very good thoughts about, like, well, then the API, I could move it here, I could move it there. Okay. Yeah. That's true. We can overthink these things, so I'm trying not to. Trying not to overthink them right now, which has
which
various
is
results.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. See if they offer any other. So we probably want to have, at least thinking about starting off down this path, we probably want to create a separate class to do these things that are associated with the meeting request at this point, or the meeting integration test, let's say.
It can be, sure. Yeah. It doesn't matter, I don't think. I'm not that.
I mean, test the test, right?
I'm not that, yeah.
I think it makes sense that I'm going to separate it out because I think the .NET new file, it's a class, it's fine. Whoa, did that really? Oh, my class name, interesting.
That's cool how it's really stubborn about that open
Caret.
less than sign. I'm sorry, angle bracket.
Angle bracket. There you go. Okay.
Come on, you gotta hang in there. The executive producer is upset about something. All right.
So I'm just looking at the ghost test to kind of get. So it wants to, hey, do we do?
Also using XUnit though, which is okay.
True.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
So here's something we can do. In the GitHub folder, we can create a file.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about this. It's really Markdown.
Yeah.
Huh. Has our love affair with YAML ended, world? Let's use Markdown.
So for our project, we are using...
I mean, this is not an announcement because I'm making it up for a joke, but coming soon, Markdown files for your favorite DevOps platform. I didn't name one because it's not I'm just making it up.
Mm-hmm. .NET Aspire, .NET.
What if Notepad? What if Windows Notepad got native Markdown support? Wow. I did see that there is a new... What?
Are you kidding? So deja vu, because...
No, I'm not. I don't know if that's real. I just said it out loud. I haven't been watching Build, not because I don't like Build. It's during the work week, so I haven't been able to watch yet. I do know about Edit, by the way. I caught a blog post on Edit, which is a console-based editor for Windows. That seems to me to be inspired by kind of like a Vim for Windows, which of course begs the question, why not just Vim for Windows? And that is answered on the repository. We'll look at it another time because I think it's an interesting idea. Okay, so for our project, you're telling it we're using .NET Aspire, NUnit for testing, and .NET 9.x. Okay, cool. So now that you've told it that, or at least written a Markdown file called Copilot instructions, and you put it in the GitHub workflows folder, that's where you put it?
In GitHub, I guess it's in GitHub workflows.
So you're unfortunately under workflows because of and I'll admit, I think this is kind of a weird way that I think if you grab it and move it to the GitHub Word, I think it'll move it. That's a weird thing I've always found about Visual Studio Code is that if there's no file in a folder, it'll just slash through to the next one, which it takes a little getting used to. So you've done it. You've done what you wanted.
Yep. So I'm going to come back to here, and I've got this. So when you'll see when I write the next command or whatever, it's going to say I've got two files, at least the way it is here. This file here, that's always kind of the one that you're open and active looking at, that's going to get included. And then as you open the caret, it'll say Copilot instructions. So it's going to get included every time you make your prompt,
Okay.
or ask your question or do your comment. So if I do here, I guess the question here for this is, are we going to continue with the Aspire path? Or are we going to try and do that?
Well, I think for now we want to continue down the Aspire path. We could theoretically create a separate test project doing things the other way. But we've started this. It's fine.
Yeah. So in here, we're not going to do anything constructor wise or anything like that. We're just going to basically create our first public.
Yeah. It'll probably be async task.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think it will task. Be. That's where we're going to end up anyway. And then now, for now, all the setup is the copying of lines 15 through 29 over on the other end. In fact, you might as well just copy the whole thing because we don't have to change that much.
Okay. Replace all this.
Yep. Now, the test here is we are changing get async is the actual route we want to call. So it will not be, so like right now it's going to complain about route and expected status code, or at least it should, but it's fine. We're going to replace route with /API/meetings, I think.
Yeah.
And then what will happen, what that'll give it, I think that probably has to be in quotes, I'm guessing.
Oh, good call.
Yeah. Response now, in my opinion, should be well, it's an HTTP response method. And let me think now. Let's see. After we call that, oh really? It's not complaining about anything. Oh, because you haven't saved that file yet. I think that's part of the reason. Once you save it, and it gets some context here, then that might light up the C# dev kit integration. I think.
Yep. Yeah, the colors all changed. Cool.
All right. So the response that you got, so the next thing we would do theoretically is, presuming that the response status code was okay, then we would read the content into a meeting, basically. And we have that code if you just want to see it. It's in the
it's over in the programs, right?
It's over in, it should be, let me think, where would it be? It would actually be on the website, I believe. I think.
Not here?
No. No, because that's the Cosmos DB clone. Yeah. I think we would see it. I think we would see it in the Blazor app. If you just want to see what it looks like.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So the component to list meetings that we have already, which I think is in, because we didn't make a separate component, or maybe we did. No, it's not going to be here. It's going to be in the page. Yep. It'll be in the meetings page for sure, because I didn't make it a separate component, which of course is a whole other issue. So we don't add meetings async. Oh, we already have a meeting service. Shows what I know. So when you go to get meetings async, I forgot about that meeting service.
Get async. Oh, wait, read from Jason, this one.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the code is.
Okay. And we should do that here.
Yes, right. So basically our test is, you know, I mean, we're going to try to get a count. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're trying to do exactly. We still have to assert something. And I don't know exactly what we assert because this result depends on what's in the Cosmos DB emulator. Like that's important. Just because of the way our application is set up right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know we eventually want to get away from that, but that's where we are today. So for one thing,
to assert on some value,
blow up.
Right, but we would want to assert on some value that the title value because we pulled back the right one, or the count because we know how many are in there, something along those lines, right?
Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. What makes this tricky, here's what makes it tricky, right? Is we don't have a deterministic state right now.
Because we're not dropping records into whatever data store to start with to know what's there.
Right. We're not setting up the emulator first, essentially.
Yeah.
The way the application works right now. What people would do is they might instead this is why you might mock the Cosmos DB implementation.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the API is kind of ignorant of that. The API doesn't technically know. Well, I take it back. The website knows. The API knows, but we would like for it to be ignorant. So it's a little difficult to write tests right now. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, but
yeah,
I just wonder if really just asserting that meetings, I mean, it wouldn't be null. It would be a list with a count. The count might be 0.
I was just, yeah. Okay. You can see meetings. Because we know there's records in there.
Yeah, the expected status code thing. Okay, you already set that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if that's going to run. You can, or what we're going to get out of that.
Yeah, so we're going to lose that.
Now, you're in VS Code today. I don't.
Try something different. Yeah.
So running this test, is that using like .NET Test or something?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think you can use .NET Test.
Okay. I do think we need. Let me just.
Visual Studio Code C# Dev Kit has a test explorer. I've never tried using it before.
Okay.
So you might literally, since you are in C# Dev Kit, you might be able to go to the command palette and type run all tests.
Oh,
maybe.
Do I have to be in that project?
I don't know. I mean, I've never tried.
Okay. I mean, I could always just punt and go back to Studio.
Well, let's just see if you do Control-Shift-P and type start typing like run all tests. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, see that? Yeah. So this is a feature, I think, of C# Dev Kit. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, let's try it.
So what is it really doing here? It's running .NET Build.
And it found the orbital test.
Yeah, and then it is we have some warnings to clean up too, don't we?
Mhm.
Okay, and then it blew up. And
What
it probably
updates
blew
are
up because
available?
we probably have. I think the other thing is that we probably have issues where read from JSON async is not included yet. I'm surprised you're not getting. It's not complaining
Yeah, I'm
about
not
that.
getting any IntelliSense really because we don't have, and maybe something is. Oh, well, wait a minute. The namespace.
Oh yeah, the namespace is not correct. I don't know that that's the only issue, but
No. Yeah, it's just trying to load things and it's not coming across. We have that over here. Well, namespace orbital test. No.
well, that's just the file scope namespace. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new file scope namespace thing. I think you. I was gonna say. I think that is a semicolon. Yeah.
So put that back. Okay. I was going to try and do it old school way and put the curly braces around it.
Yeah.
Just in case that's what's freaking it out. But
No, I think the problem is it says HTTP content does not contain a definition for read from JSON async. So
oh. So we need the right?
no, I don't think that's it actually. Oh, wait, maybe I'm wrong. I think it's system.net.http.json. Because I think that's an extension method. Yeah. Now, again, I don't know if we have that included, but we're about to find out.
Mm-hmm. Meaning can't be found.
Oh yeah, we
Because we need
probably
a
are
reference
not
to.
including the orbital core reference yet.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah. So if we go here,
So in that item group, that's the item group we want.
yeah, and orbital core.
Okay.
No, sorry, that's not what we wanted. Don't save. Oh, run all tests. That's what you want. Okay. Oh,
What is it saying now?
I'll show you. I did. I just copied down the app host. Forgot to replace the core. So it probably still wants the. All right, one more thing. It wants default timeout. How we doing on time?
It's a little past 9.
You good?
I do need to get going.
Okay. I will try one last thing. Here we go. Pop that. There we go.
Okay. It looks like there's a lot of things to include here still.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
Well,
you're not getting any. I'm surprised you're not getting a whole lot of IntelliSense support, but
yeah, I'm with you there.
all right. So the difficulty that we have is, at least as of right now, is trying to add integration tests when things are kind of tightly bound.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to switch over to a repository pattern. So we'll have to
We're starting. We're
keep
getting there.
looking at
There we
how
go.
we're going to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will see if we can take a little look at this and try and clean some things up. But at least I'm getting the IntelliSense back, which is good.
Okay. So yeah, so like we're on a step now where we want to add some testing so that we can, the idea is so that we can fearlessly change the implementation. But it creates some interesting issues. Like, is the implementation too tightly wound up? Or, and I think in a lot of times people might even object to being too driven to pleasing your tests, because I think in some cases you might damage the abstractions like in your code just to make things testable. That's probably not the best reason, but I imagine like everything, it depends. So
yeah.
All right. Well,
That
unfortunately,
it
it's a little past 9, so I have to get going to actual commitments.
Yeah. Go do real work.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Rich, thanks for working through that. I appreciate that we got to take a look at GitHub Copilot reviewing our pull requests. That was a feature I was totally unaware of. I think it's neat.
Yeah.
Interesting how it filled out the pull request too and provided a lot of detail on the commits, which is something I like to do. I definitely like to see commits with some good detail. So
definitely.
In any case,
it's hugely important.
Yeah. So in any case, anything else?
No, I think it's great. Yeah. I think we're good.
All right. All right. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us today. We'll keep going on this app. And again, each along the way, we try to find new features and things that might help you at work. And so if you have any comments, please don't hesitate to include them below if you're watching on YouTube. And, hit the like button if you like the content. Other than that, we will see you all next time on the Dev Talk Show.